either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie!
It's pretty good.
Yeah, well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
You sorry? You waste our film.
It's so bad! Still got a few weeks of summer left. Let's see what's cooking on the big screen and for streaming. This is the Screening Room Podcast, sponsored by Gateway Film Center. Welcome. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com, and we're going to start with an action epic based on the best-selling video game. It's an all-star action-adventure that follows a ragtag team of misfits on a mission to save a missing girl who holds the key to unimaginable power. It's Borderlands.
Brave vault hunters! You've come in search of the secret lost vault of Pandora!
You ready to kick some ass?
Okay, let's go.
Hey, catch!
If the legends were true,
I'm the only one who can open the vault.
what are you doing?
Feel free to applaud.
Follow me this way. I have a tremendous sense of
Nobody kills me but me!
Put the window up.
I don't want to.
It's pink.
It's in my mouth.
How are we gonna get through this?
everybody run!
As we've said on numerous occasions, we're not gamers.
Nope.
But this trailer kind of got me. I thought, first of all, I love the use of that ELO song. It's a
Yeah.
cool song, Do Ya? And they use it well. And, and it's got a good cast.
Great cast.
So it had my interest.
Yeah.
And this one just lands like a big old thud.
It really does. And I'm wondering if part of the problem is the PG-13 rating, because the game itself, as somebody pointed out today on our Facebook page, the game itself is for mature audiences.
Oh.
So it seems like probably wasn't necessary to neuter the violence, to neuter the language.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's a good point.
And Eli Roth is the director, and he's kind of better suited to
Yeah,
R
yeah.
than he is to PG-13. And he's working with Cate Blanchett. They actually worked together in The House with a Clock on Its Walls, which was a near miss.
It was okay,
wasn't
yeah.
terrible, but
Right.
it seemed like it didn't understand its audience.
Mm-hmm.
But if Cate Blanchett is in anything at all, I want to see it. And she's, not surprisingly, quite good in this.
Yes, that's
She
not a surprise at all.
She cuts a very impressive and yet elegant action figure.
Well, that's one of the reasons the trailer looked interesting.
Yeah.
And of
For
course,
sure.
she was great with her part in the one
Yeah.
Thor movie.
God,
so,
she's glorious.
Yeah, so you're right. She's good in everything.
Yeah, she is. She's good in everything. But also Jamie Lee Curtis is great. And
Forgot about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart is great, and Jack Black. I love Jack Black. And actually, Ariana Greenblatt plays the girl who's been kidnapped. You might remember her from Barbie, and she's really quite fun in this movie. But the movie doesn't know what it's doing. I just feel like Eli Roth just was, I don't know, not in his element. I mean, first of all, the effects are not good. The action, there's not enough of it. And what is there is just not compellingly filmed. There really are only two major action sequences, which is not nearly enough for this movie. And neither one of them is done very well. The one is sort of should have been kind of comedic and exhilarating. And boy, in the comedy element, it really falls flat. Like, he really doesn't know when to cut a joke. He doesn't know how to create comic timing. Roth,
Yeah, because he co-wrote it as well as directing. Co-wrote it with Joe Abercrombie.
But then, the other big sequence is in like the series of tunnels where they fight a bunch of psychos. And that should have worked, because that feels like a horror film / video game, and it should have worked. But none of the scenes amount to anything. They don't connect you to the next scene. There's no transition. There's no follow through. It just doesn't do anything except waste a lot of talent.
Well, I think we've seen that, it's been tough to translate video games successfully to movies.
It has been.
And maybe that's one of the common elements, because you're right. In something like that tunnel sequence, you could see that being leveling up in a video game.
Yeah.
and then moving from one to another. So,
and you don't need any continuity, and you don't need a transition to the storyline. But in this, it's like, well, yeah. In that particularly in that scene, it just doesn't end. It could have ended fairly interestingly, but it just doesn't. I mean, it's such a waste.
A big waste. And you make a good point about it being PG-13.
Yeah.
Maybe they just should have gone in with the full mature audience that I guess the video game was intended for. And then Eli Roth probably being more comfortable with that sort of material.
Yeah.
But this one is probably going to end up on streaming very, very quickly, unfortunately. And that is Borderlands on the big screen this weekend. Next up is a horror mystery thriller we've been looking forward to. A 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. It's Cuckoo.
If I were you, I wouldn't want to get hurt even more.
Why did you bring us here?
Your family belongs here.
That's a fucking weird way to put it.
You told the police that you were chased by a woman.
I think I'm crazy.
Nature is quite remarkable.
Oh, it feels so good.
We have to go.
Some species need our help. I'm giving you the chance to be of great use in our quest for preservation. Consider yourself lucky.
Now, this is the latest from writer-director Tillman Singer, who did that one that you really enjoyed called Lose. Very spare, one setting, only like 70 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Really, really interesting film.
Yeah. So that was one of the reasons that we were excited about this one. Now, this one is full. It's about an hour and a half, but just another one that I thought was really disappointing. First of all, at least for me, aside from one good, solid jump scare, it really leaned more sci-fi than horror. Of course, that's depending on your taste, but that's how it landed for me. And it just seems weird for weird's sake. Hunter Schafer is the star, and she's from Euphoria, and she's very good in a physically demanding role because, man, they beat her up. And she's American, but she's going to live with her father, played by Martin Zonkus. He's always usually a great villain.
Yeah.
Not really a villain here. I mean, he's not exactly a nice guy either, but he's not a main villain. But anyway, so she's going to live with her father and her father's new wife and their smaller daughter. So basically a half sister of Hunter Schafer's character, who she really does named Gretchen, who she really doesn't want to acknowledge as her sister, at least right away. But the house where they're going to be living is not done yet. So while they wait, they're being put up in this resort in Germany. They're in Germany, in the Bavarian Alps. And the resort is run by Dan Stevens, again playing a villain.
Yeah.
He's been sort of leaning into the villain roles lately.
Yeah, he has been.
Yeah.
I love Dan Stevens in everything.
Yeah, and he really pours it on here. I mean, right away, you're like, oh, that guy can't be good. And then Gretchen, Hunter Schafer, just sort of pass the time and stay busy. She gets a job. She sort of mans the front desk at the resort in the later hours. And then right away, weird things start happening. People come in to the little mini mart there and just start throwing up all over everything. And then Hunter gets increasingly injured after this jump scare on a bicycle, which is really pretty well constructed. Then she bangs her head, and that's just the first of a lot of bloody mishaps and accidents. And before you know it, her arm is in a sling, and she's just really beat up, which makes it hard for her to run from this apparently crazy lady that is she real? That she seems to be chasing her and other people. Is there danger? And then there's another maybe policeman that wants to help, but is he really a policeman? There's a lot of weird things going on. But for me, it just doesn't, it keeps getting weirder and weirder, but doesn't really lead anywhere that satisfying. It seems, again, to be just weird for weird's sake. And when you do get to just what's going on here, it's kind of like, I don't want to really give away anything about what it reminded me of.
No.
But it's
But it reminded you of a movie we don't care for.
yeah, and a couple other good ones, but ideas, recycled ideas, that just weren't really explored, just really pouring on the weirdness, and it didn't work for me. It really didn't work for me. It's something that I think people also it drags. It drags, and you're expecting. In fact, there's one moment specifically when like a door opens and Dan Stevens says something, and okay, now I'm gonna see something. Here's where, and that gets diffused. So it really, I think, is asking a lot of the audience to keep buying into this as long as it goes, and it's not over long. Like I said, it's just a little bit over 90 minutes, but as opposed to like Lose, his other one, 70 minutes, man. This one still could have cut some time off it because it seems to just really being prolonged where it's going, almost like it doesn't really know. And when it gets there, it's just not that satisfying. But again, Hunter Schafer was good, and they put her through it in this. So it's just one that it captures your attention early with this setup. Oh my God, what's going on? And then just plays with it too long and doesn't satisfy, doesn't reward you enough for buying in. So this one, again, was disappointing because we were both looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And it is in the theaters now, called Cuckoo. And next up is a book adaptation a lot of people have been looking forward to. It's adapted from the Colleen Hoover novel. Lily overcomes a traumatic childhood to embark on a new life. A chance meeting with a neurosurgeon sparks a connection, but Lily begins to see sides of him that remind her of her parents' relationship. It ends with us.
Lily Blue, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
What are you doing in Boston?
I opened my flower shop.
I still remember the day I saw you in the window.
Yeah, we were just kids then.
Is that your guy?
Yeah, that's Ryle. Even on my worst day,
You're tripped. You love him now.
I love you.
It wasn't my question.
If one day you had a daughter, what would you say to her? She came to you and said the person she loved was hurting her. What would you say to her?
None of this is your fault.
As hard as this choice is, we break the pattern. Or the pattern breaks us.
We'd ever heard of this book? Got a lot of fans.
Yeah.
A lot of fans looking forward to this adaptation. And I guess as soon as they announced the plans for this and they announced the casting, some of the longtime book fans were angry because they moved the ages of the two main characters, well, I guess three, ahead about 10 years. But then the author of the book, Colleen Hoover, came out and said, no, that's on me because they should have been that old in the beginning. Because the one, as it said in the synopsis there,
is a neurosurgeon. And it takes a long time.
Yeah, and the author, Colleen Hoover, admitted that. That was on her not realizing that. So it still has its YA beginnings of the story, and that's one of the problems the film has, is outrunning those. But it does do a pretty good job dealing with a serious issue and trying to make this story relevant for an older audience and not just pander to the YA audience like so many of them do. Stars Blake Lively. She's also a producer. She's very, very good. She's one of the reasons this movie works as well as it does. And yeah, she plays Lily, who is an owner of a Boston flower shop. And she meets this Ryle is his name. Mm-hmm. And he's played by Justin Baldoni, who also is the director. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he moves fast. He's a playboy. She takes it slow. And I think another thing that the film does well is go slow with their relationship. We get to know them a little bit. We need that. And while their relationship is developing, it layers in Baldoni, the director, and the writer of the adaptation, Christy Hall, who just did a pretty good job being smartly provocative with Daddy-O a few weeks ago.
Right.
She adapts the screenplay here. So they layer in flashbacks to Lily and her first boyfriend from high school in Maine. And they sort of got together because they were seeking comfort from their respective home lives that also had domestic violence in them. Mm-hmm. Then they were pulled apart after graduation because he named Atlas Corrigan.
Oh,
yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah. Well, didn't we all have classmates in high school named Atlas? Anyway, he went away to the Marines. Atlas is played by Brandon Sklenar. And I should say the two kids, well, the girl that plays young Lily, Isabella Ferrar, looks a lot like Blake Lively. I mean, I thought, was this some sort of relation? And then young Atlas is played by Alex Neustadtler. And so when Lily and Ryle, they continue their relationship, they end up getting married. But then, we see early on, actually the first time that the two meet, Lily and Ryle meet at the top of his apartment building. He doesn't know she's there, and he's up there to blow off steam, sort of having a tantrum. So we see he's got a temper.
Mm-hmm.
And so that slowly things start happening, quote-unquote, accidents happen, and things start getting a little troublesome. And that's just when Atlas shows up. He's in Boston, too. He's the owner of the local hot new restaurant down the street. That's Lily's best friend, played by Jenny Slate, likes so much. Now, Jenny Slate is always a treat to see.
Yes.
She seems a little out of place here, the kooky best friend kind of thing. I mean, she does it well, but it seems just a little misplaced, as does there are way too many needle drops of these angsty, plaintive, interchangeable pop songs trying to get inside the heads of the characters. A little of that goes a long way, and so they overdo that. But once Atlas is back in Lily's life a little bit, that only makes Ryle jealous, and of course that feeds his temper, and things start escalating. And I will say another thing I liked about the film is how it treats the return of the Atlas character. He's more of a reminder for Lily than her savior, and that's an important distinction I think the film does right. But they do treat these issues. They're serious issues. And I think Blake Lively's performance, it lets you see her caution, which is important. And then once things start happening, her desperation and mixed with guilt, because we know she's not to blame, but her history with that sort of comes to the surface thing. What can I do?
Right.
And it's
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and it's desperation on her part not to repeat some of these situations that she saw in her own life, and Blake Lively does that very well and gets us on the character's side. So those things are done well. But then important issues are raised. Case in point, things that make it hard for women to leave abusive relationships. But they're raised, they're lowered a little too quickly, tidied up a little too quickly, and that I think is reminiscent of the YA type of approach to these.
Right.
Sanitize a little bit and sort of cater to a younger audience and move on, and let's make sure it's all happy in fantasy world. So it's not a completely successful transition to adult audiences for this story, but overall I think it's better than a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's better than a lot of them, and I think the cast goes a long way to doing that, especially Blake Lively. She's really good at this. And, the director, Justin Baldoni, I'll be honest, I did have to wonder why a man was directing this. I mean, he has directed, I think he was involved a lot with the TV series Jane the Virgin, never saw. Mm-hmm. Then he directed that YA adaptation called 5 Feet Apart, which was not great, but had some good performances in it. Haley Lu Richardson was one of those. Mm-hmm. So it's not that he does a bad job directing. I do think the two storylines are woven together pretty well. But I was sort of curious why they did. I mean, they've got a woman starring and producing in Blake Lively and a woman adapting. I just kind of wondered. Well, it kind of made sense maybe with this sort of subject matter. Maybe they might have a woman directing. But, it's not that he did a terrible job at all, but I just kind of wondered.
Mm-hmm. I
still think, at least I hope, judging from the crowd in the screening that I was at, which was full, by the way, I think if you're a fan of the book, you'll probably be satisfied with this. I'd be surprised if you weren't. But then I didn't read the book. We didn't read the book, so we don't know. But as for a movie adaptation that moves it to an older audience, I think it does it pretty well. Not great, but pretty well. And that is on the big screens now, called It Ends With Us. Next up is an action comedy caper. This one is in select theaters and also on Apple TV right now, starting this week. This follows two robbers who must go on the run with the help of one of their therapists after a theft doesn't go as planned. It's the Instigators.
Quick question. If I'm giving instructions and they're not doing them,
Just say, I have a gun. What are you doing?
taking notes.
Taking notes on a criminal conspiracy. We gotta find those guys before the cops do. And put them down before they can talk.
Everybody in New England is after us.
I gotta speak to you. I really need you right now, Doc.
I would be breaking the law.
What if I took you hostage? I mean, like, with your permission.
What kind of conversation is this?
You're gonna love him.
Rory, you are driving recklessly.
I'm in the middle of a high-speed car chase.
Think about the person you wanted to be.
What kind of person do I be?
You walk out with me.
But I'm their hostage. And their psychiatrist.
You're underpaid.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, you love a heist movie.
Love a heist movie. They're fun. You tell me it's a heist movie, as this one is, I'm in already. And this one has a lot to like. It's not up there at the top of the heist movies, but especially if you have Apple TV, I think this is, there are a lot worse ways to spend, an hour and a half or so. And this is, the director is Doug Liman, who is coming off his remake of Roadhouse, which I thought was a lot of fun. I mean, you can still get, and I have, got into some polarizing conversations about people that hate it, but I thought it was a lot of fun. So he's coming off that, and it's co-writer and co-star Casey Affleck. I think Ben Affleck is a producer, but he's not in the cast. It's Casey Affleck teaming up with Matt Damon. So they're the massholes this time. And Casey is an alcoholic ex-con. This is his sort of life. Matt Damon is an ex-Marine, a former Marine, and he is down on his luck, and he's telling his therapist, played by Hong Chow, who's always great. Yeah, he needs a real specific amount of money to get out of his problem, $32,400. That's very specific.
Yeah.
And a lot of money. And it finds a way he can make it, teaming with Casey Affleck. They don't know each other, on this job, to pull this job for a local mob kind of crime boss, played by Michael Stuhlbarg. This cast is full of great actors in doing smaller parts, but carving them out really, really well. And what they want to do, they're supposed to, it's an election night, a special election actually, in Boston, and they are going to rob the party at the yacht club, the soiree for the mayor after is expected to win. And the mayor's played by Ron Perlman. And so when do these heists ever go right?
Never.
They just don't.
That's why you
so
shouldn't do
next
it.
time, and then they've got this another local henchman of Michael Stuhlbarg, played by that rapper Jack Harlow, who was just in the remake of White Men Can't Jump. So things go haywire. Next thing you know, Damon and Affleck, they're on the run. The cops want them. The mayor's main enforcer, played by Ving Rhames, he wants them. Another a local henchman, Paul Walter Hauser, he's in there. You just keep seeing all these great character actors in these smaller parts. Alfred Molina. Yeah, he's in there too. So they're everywhere. And I do credit the script with carving out these indelible enough characters and then giving these great actors room to give them edges, and to make it all very engaging. It's not as fun as you're hoping that it would be.
Right.
It's witty. There are some witty comments, and the way that Matt Damon approaches this in a very workmanlike manner, he's taking notes, and they're like, you're taking notes on this criminal enterprise? And he wants to do it right. He wants to earn his money. And, of course, Casey Affleck is just the jaded, we're just pulling a job, and then I'm going to be drunk half the time. And so they make a good odd couple of criminals, wannabe criminals. And then you throw Hong Chow into it because Matt Damon, he insists on getting her along for the ride once they're on the run, and she still wants to work on his personal growth, even as they're being chased by everyone around town. So it kind of crisses and crosses, and of course there's a double crossing, and I still enjoyed it. Again, heist movies, I'm just waiting for it to be a little more fun, a little more funny as well. Some of the jokes are so deadpan, you might miss them. But they are witty enough, and the story goes in directions that will keep your interest enough. Just maybe not as fun as some of your favorite heist movies, but I still thought it was worthwhile. Especially
more fun than Jerry.
Yeah, it was more fun than Jerry, especially if you've got Apple TV already, and that is Matt Damon and Casey Affleck in The Instigators, out now. Let's go back to VOD for a horror thriller. After a small-time wrestling star develops a crush on an openly gay classmate, he is stalked by a grotesque creature that invades his thoughts as he navigates his feelings and struggles to live up to his legacy-obsessed family. It's called Ganymede.
I believe we're dealing with a Ganymede.
What is it?
The Ganymede is an unrepentant homosexual with demonic forces that overtake others with sex urges. Lee, do you have reprobate thoughts about the Culper boy?
Do you know what that boy is? I don't want you going to that house.
How many signs do you need, Kyle? Let it go.
That's not him.
There's no such thing as a homosexual.
He's confused, and he's got demons.
We had a deformed child!
We don't have to be scared.
You surrender to God, but you live in hell. Let us pray.
Look what you've done to this holy job!
Now you go home and you think about it being in hell.
I think the most interesting thing about this movie is David Koechner.
Yes, David Koechner. Whammy!
Whammy, yeah.
Chap kind.
That's right. He plays the pastor at a very, very evangelical, like, shack-type evangelical church that caters to the town commissioner. And the commissioner's son, Lee, has kind of a mantra that he rehearses as he runs every day and gets ready for, to be a wrestling star. And it's, I am not homosexual or bisexual. I am heterosexual and straight. And he just chants it to himself repeatedly, clarifying, if nothing else, that he's clearly gay.
Yeah, and Lee is played by Jordan Dow.
And then, he's approached really with friendship and kindness by an out teen in his high school, Kyle, played by Pablo Casablanco. He's just the dearest thing. And honestly, I think that it's this kid's performance is what elevates the film, because you so desperately don't want anything bad to happen to him that it makes you tense, which is good. The film needed that. And what winds up happening is that the pastor believes that with some shock therapy, Lee can be cured because homosexuality is not real, and that this kid, Kyle, is a Ganymede, which is kind of a demon that makes you think you're gay. And it's a pretty heavy-handed, and as soon as, there's this sort of, repulsive kind of mutant thing that is always chasing Lee just outside of his vision. What it made me think of immediately is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, because it is more or less it's a metaphor for homosexuality, right? The main character is a young man, and he's got this, like, everything about the movie is so gay, and then he's got this just demon who's constantly at him in this very sexual manner.
But that movie didn't admit it like this one does.
Yeah, this one is very out and proud. Yeah. But it doesn't work nearly as well. But it's not bad, and it benefits from some decent performances that kind of help, I think, to eclipse some weak writing. So it is not a great movie, but it's a pretty good movie. It's a decent film.
And David Koechner.
Yeah, very good.
And that is Ganymede on VOD now. Let's stay on VOD for a biography drama of dancers Rob and Fab, rising to fame in the late 1980s. Becoming stars with #1 hits and a Grammy win as Milli Vanilli. The duo never sang a word in their songs, and the truth was revealed. They starred as one of the biggest scandals in music history. This one's Girl, You Know It's True.
When are we going to record our version of the song?
We can try the singing, but for now, you are the frontman.
That's what this biz is all about, illusions.
Everybody's talking about Milli Vanilli.
Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli.
Everybody's faking. They lip sync to their own voices. That's different.
You think everybody could do what we do?
We deserve all this, man.
You're the #1 song in America.
Hey, fans.
They stole our song.
I am the producer! Do you understand?
You know the rumors. The whole act is fake.
The music was fantastic. The videos, the shows were great. People were happy.
I don't care if they're a singer or not. I freaking love Milli Vanilli.
So what's the problem?
We are brothers. Forever.
about time you meet the real Milli Vanilli.
Rachel Willis reviewed this one for us at madwolf.com. Kind of delighted, honestly.
Yeah.
She really enjoyed it. I think maybe a little skeptical going in, but it turns out it's as fascinating a scandal today as it was at the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it wouldn't even be a scandal
It wouldn't.
today. Not at all.
That's the crazy thing, because those of us of a certain age remember this,
Yeah.
and when it broke at the time, you're like, oh, and they took away their Grammy and
Yeah.
everything else. But nowadays, like kids today would probably, what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal was the actual acts.
Yeah.
They weren't being paid.
Well,
They weren't being paid. They weren't being credited.
But the fact that you're not singing your own songs,
Yeah.
I think, has become not
No.
such a much.
No.
But back then, and to revisit this and to get behind it, like, were they complicit? Were they taken advantage of?
Yeah.
And it really gets into that with their producer, who was played by Matthias Schwinghofer, who is one of those guys you'll
know his face.
You'll know his face. And read Rachel's review. But she was really engaged in the treatment of it.
Yeah. I think it was better than any of us expected it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And that is on VOD now. The Milli Vanilli story, girl, you know it's true. And one more drama on VOD. Genia, 17, experiences the ecstasy and turmoil that characterize the mysterious journey into adulthood. Meeting with Amelia confronts her with new and shocking emotions, but only by recognizing this love, she can be herself. It's called The Beautiful Summer.
Non è più bello quando siamo io e te invece di stare con quei due che ci provano con tu?
Devi essere felice. L'infelicità non serve a niente.
This is co-written and directed by Laura Lucetti and is reviewed at madwolf.com by Eva Frazier.
Yeah, who liked it very much, but felt like it needed to be less ambiguous. It's set right around World War II. And, for a queer romance set in Italy around World War II, it doesn't feel as fraught as it probably should, although it is a gorgeous movie. It is beautifully filmed in a way that is very sensual. And I think that's kind of part of I think the film would have benefited if the sensuality had been sort of balanced with the tension of being, having to hide who you are during this time period where it would be very dangerous for you to be out. I mean, in the 1940s, anywhere it would be dangerous for you to be out, but certainly in Italy at that time. So it needed to be maybe a little bit less opaque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Eva seemed to feel that as worthy as this territory is for a story, I think the film thought it was being a little more profound than it really is.
Yeah.
With other films and stories that have gone down this same road. But you can read Eva's review at madwolf.com, and that one is on VOD now, called The Beautiful Summer.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
It's lobby time. Time to check in with Daniel Baldwin, a.k.a. the Schlocketeer, for all the studio comings and goings and delays. What's going on?
Well, first off, Twisters will premiere on premium VOD on August 13th, and a streaming premiere on Max should follow sometime in late September.
Okay.
And then moving on into horror territory, We Are Zombies, which is the new horror comedy from the Turbo Kid and Summer of '84 filmmaking team RKSS, will premiere on Screambox on August 13th. And then a week later, Oddity will arrive on VOD on August 20th. Don't have a streaming premiere date for Shudder, but I would assume that'll come sometime in September.
Cool.
And then Yorgos Lanthimos' Kinds of Kindness is finally hitting VOD on August 27th. Bit of a longer wait on that one.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
It is a weird one.
IFC and Shudder will release their survival thriller Out Come the Wolves in theaters on August 30th, and that's the latest from Backcountry and Pyewacket filmmaker Adam McDonald. There's a new possession thriller called The Demon Disorder that is premiering on Shudder on September 6th. And Amazon MGM will release their Aubrey Plaza starring dramedy My Old Ass in theaters on September 13th.
I just saw the trailer for that, yeah. Looks interesting.
Pivoting, XYZ Films will release their Frank Grillo starring actioner Hounds of War on VOD on September 20th.
Grillo!
Got to have your Grillo addiction fulfilled every few months. And then Apple has changed up their release strategy for the George Clooney and Brad Pitt crime comedy Wolves. Instead of getting a wide theatrical release on September 20th, it'll only get a limited 1-week theatrical run and then immediately hit Apple TV Plus on September 27th.
Sort of apparently. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sort of like the Instigators this week, huh?
Yeah, it seems it's not a comment on the film itself because they've already greenlit a sequel, but I think Apple is just kind of changing the way they release their movies in theaters in general.
Mm-hmm.
They've already greenlit a sequel to what?
Wolves.
Really? Yeah.
All right.
And then Sony has moved up the theatrical release of Robert Zemeckis' Here by 2 weeks to November 1st, which is pretty much just going to give it a lot more breathing room because the back half of November is pretty packed. And then finally, Disney and Searchlight have officially locked in a December 25th theatrical release for James Mangold's Timothée Chalamet starring Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown.
Yeah, I saw that trailer, and yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
He did a good job with Walk the Line, so fingers crossed.
Yep.
And that's all I've got for you this week.
All right. We can always catch up with Daniel on the socials, all the latest news at The Schlocketeer. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're looking ahead to next week. Ooh, we've been looking forward to this one. Alien Romulus comes out next week.
And on the other end of the spectrum, my penguin friend.
Is my penguin friend going to spit acid blood at me?
I hope not.
Hopefully not. Also, one called Mother's Instinct.
Close to you.
In the Rear View.
The Union.
Oh, and DD finally comes out.
Yeah.
You saw that a while ago, so we'll finally talk about that one. Well, that's next week, though. What about this week? Cuckoo, Borderlands. We were disappointed. Did they disappoint you as much? We'll talk about that, or if it ends with us. What'd you think about that, especially if you were a fan of the book? Let us know. Easy to keep the conversation going. You can find us at Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. Of course, the main website, madwolf.com. You can find all the written reviews and our other podcast, horror movie only podcast. Going to record a brand new one tonight called Fright Club. That's all there for you at madwolf.com. So keep in touch, enjoy the movies, and until next week, inching closer to fall. Can you believe this? Until next week, be well. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Whammy!